Alright, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to build the last basic route that we need right now. Of course, we are going to need a lot of new routes. We're going to need update routes, delete routes, update pages. So a whole lot of routes. But now, currently, we're building just the basic routes in which we have the option of like adding something. We have the option of viewing the things, right? That's all. So currently what we have is we have three pages. One is this home page, which has the top blogs. Then we have slash blogs. Okay, so this will need to refresh. All right, so we'll have to restart the Mongo again. Probably I left it for some time. That's why Goom will have to restart. So now I'll run Mongo. Next, I'll run node Mongo. Of course, I'll have to move into Blogify first. Now I'll run node Mongo. Serving Blogify on port 3000. Excellent. Now if I press enter, I'm getting this is my index file. So great. And the last that we have is slash blog slash new, which is basically a form for adding things to the page, which we can test from here. My second post, this is my second post. Excellent. So now we have like the basic things set up. The one thing that we should have and we do not have is that when you click on something like this should open up a new page where your whole blog is showing up, because currently this is a really small description, but imagine having like 1200 words, right? Of course, you're not going to print 1200 words here. You print like the first 100, of course, but so to open that up, we need to have a new page, right? So we'll make that new page right now. So that is, I personally like to segregate the get routes from the post routes by like, doing all of them at once. But of course, that's your own choice. You could choose to do whatever you want. So for that, we'll need a new get route, which will be slash blogs. Again, this is the convention, so follow my whatever convention I'm following. And we're going to get to the convention real soon, so don't worry about that. All right, that's probably the next major thing that we're going to see. All right. Anyway, so slash blogs slash id will be our route for that. Now, if you don't remember, there's only one time we have used the syntax, so it's quite possible that you forgot that if you are putting this colon here, means that this id is now a variable. So whenever you visit something like slash blogs slash something like this whole thing will be put into the id, right? And then you can access that by using reddoc params. Now, the one thing that you should remember while doing this, right? First, let's build the route, and it's quite possible that it won't work for some of you. One of these routes will stop working for some of you as soon as you build this, if you have taken a different order of them, right? And I'll explain what exactly will happen once we build this route one. Right. So actually, we left that in the end, and it was not added to the video. So I'm adding this later on. So basically, the thing is that if you put the ID route above the new route, then what will happen when you visit slash blogs slash new is that the word new will be taken as an ID, because only one route is followed at a time, right? So slash blogs slash colon ID is looking for anything which has something after slash blog slash. So we need to put slash blogs slash new above slash blog slash id, so that whenever we visit that slash blog slash new, it is visited first and we don't go to slash id, right? Great. So I'll do recres, right? And the next thing that I'm going to do is so now we have our ID and we want to use the blog with this ID. If you remember, Mongo gives a specific ID to every element in your database, right? So now we have slash ID, and what we can do is we can do blog. Now you could do blog.find, and then inside you could give underscore id is rec.params.id, and that would work. That's not a problem. But there's actually a better function to do this, which is known as find by id, right? So if you think about it, one thing that's common in every Mongo database, in every entry, is that every entry has an ID, right? So that's why Mongo made a separate function for find by ID, which basically does the same thing as the actually doing find and then giving the parentheses and doing underscore ID is ID, right? But this just makes writing it a little more understandable. And inside, the first parameter we give is actually the ID that we have, right? So if you remember, all the request parameters that we passed in our URL came inside the rec.params object, which we can use later on. So we have used .id from that, right? And so by this, we are like finding the blog with the ID that's in this URL, and then we are doing error found blog. Let's call that, right? I'll do if error console.log error. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to do res.render. It will be a new file which will be basically show, right? And name that the same too. Like I know I've been saying this a lot, but this actually is really important. So now the next thing that we'll pass in is the blog found blog. So now inside the show.ejs file, which we don't have yet, we will have it later on. But inside the show.ejs file, we will have a blog variable which will contain the value of this found blog, right? Great. So now I'll stop this server. I'll start a new terminal window here, and I'll run nodemon in this window so that it always runs in the background and it doesn't stop us from making changes using this terminal below, right? So nodemon is running here now. Of course, I'll need to move into the directory first. Serving Blogify on board 3000. Great. So now in here, we need to make a new view, right? A new file. So that we do inside the views directory. So we'll do touch views/show.ejs, and then I'll open that up. Great. So now inside the show.ejs, the first thing that I'll do, the very first thing that I always do is include the partials. So I'll do include /partials header, and then I'll copy this line and I'll paste this line, and I'll do footer. Great. So now let's start making a thing. So first of all, we will have the h1. So what's happening in this page is we have an h3, right? So the only difference that we'll make in like the show page yet will be we'll make this an h1 and we'll put this below as a paragraph, and we'll also put a hr in between just to make a difference. And the next thing that we're going to do after making this route is the styling. So then our website will actually start coming together a lot, and you will actually start seeing the use of making so many routes, because currently all of them are doing more or less the same thing, right? So now let's make an h1, which will be inside the data will be blog.title. So if I go to, I can't actually go to any of them right now, right? And then we'll have a, let's say HR, and then we'll have a paragraph. I don't know why I'm indenting all of this. Let me just fix that. And the paragraph will be, let's do this. Alright, the EGS tags are here, and I'll do blog.content. Right. So now this way we have made a show route for our particular blog, and this will show the one blog that we want to see. Now the point is that we need to test it, right? So how do we test it? Like I know we need to go to /blogs/id, right? But I don't actually know the ID, and that's a really weird string. So what I'm going to do is I'll open a new terminal here, and this is just for the initial testing. After this, we're going to do something with which we will not have to do this anymore. I'll do Mongo, I'll do show DBs, I'll do use Blogify, I'll do show collections. I'm running over this really quickly because I want to just show you something, right? Have I spelled that? Right. So now you see I have two posts here and they have these IDs, right? So let's copy these IDs first, one by one. And I'll paste that in here. This won't work just yet because this is not the format that this should be in. The format should be this, right? So now I'll press enter and I get my first post, NHR, and then I get this is my first post. Similarly, if I replace this ID with the second ID, copy, paste, and then remove the quotes, the bracket, and the object ID keyword, and I get my second post. And if I do something else, like if I do 7 in here instead of 8, I don't get anything because it is actually null, right? So we could add that check, and we'll add that check first. And we'll add that check later that if the post is not found, we need to render something else, because that is like some advanced error handling. I mean, not advanced, it's actually quite simple, but error handling is a separate task, right? And we're not focusing on that task yet. So anyway, so the point is that alright, so I'll get back to that so that our server then works fine. Great, excellent. And that's great. So now it's obvious that we don't actually want to like write the ID in here by itself. So what we're going to do is we are going to make link tags from our index and home page to this show page. And let's do that first. So ls, and inside here I'll do ghoul views /home.ejs. So here I can see I have the item.title here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, this is an A tag, right? And the A tag ends after this item. Right? And the href needs to be, now note that when we are calling this home route from our app.js, where is it? Here is it, right? So we are actually finding all the blogs, right? And the data has all the information about the blogs. So this data is actually being passed into this home.ejs, right? And don't forget that every entry does have an ID. So this data also contains the ID of that particular entry, right? So that's what we can use. We can do href /blogs/ and then we can concatenate a string which will be, I don't think I've done this correctly, right? So, right. So now this, and yeah, that was the problem. So I'll add the data dot underscore ID to this. Now, if this was confusing, I'll explain this again, right? So we want to go to /blogs/ID to reach our show page, right? So what we're doing here is inside the home file, we're doing /blog/, that's of course fine. And then we are concatenating the data.id to it, because the ID is already present inside the data that we're passing from the app.js, right? And we're making it a link tag. So now we can visit /blogs, right? And not /blogs, we'll have to visit /. And you see I have links here, not very good styled, but again the styling starts after this. So now if I click on this, so it does not show up. So let's see why that's happening. It must be some like careless mistake. So before here, I'll do. All right. So I've made a really weird mistake here. I didn't need to do data.id. I need to do item.id. Right. So now if I go to /blogs and I click on this, it still does not work. So let's see why that's happening. And this is some classic error debugging. Let's do console.log item. And if I go to / and then if I see in my node, I do have my _ID. So what's the main problem? Alright, so after some debugging, the only problem was that this code needed to be outside the whole of this. I don't know how I made that mistake. But whenever you do this, the item is actually substituted by itself. So you don't need to do the concatenation thing, right? And now if we go here and I click on this, I get to my first post. And if I click on this, I get to my second post. So you can see the home page is working fine. And we could add a similar thing to the index.ejs, right? Let's do that quickly. I'll do index.ejs. And inside here, this line exact, first of all, I'll remove this line. This was for the debugging. And then next, I'll copy this one. I'll paste this one here. So now if I visit /blogs, I have the same links and I can click on them to reach any file. Excellent. So now we have set up the show route 2. And now I've been saying for a long time that we'll start styling. So the next thing that we do now is the style, right? Great. But that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.